Specialized research pods lined the station's interior. Alien specimens studied through transparent containment units demonstrated unprecedented levels of adaptive intelligence. Their crystalline bodies would shift and transform, creating intricate, light patterns that responded to each carefully crafted dish. Global culinary teams worked in perfect synchronization. Brazilian chefs developed spice combinations that could trigger specific neural responses in alien communication networks. Indian culinary experts created marinades that acted like complex molecular messages. Mediterranean teams developed fermentation, techniques that could represent diplomatic waiting periods. The space station became a living, breathing communication center. Massive communication arrays tracked the molecular interactions, transforming each recipe into a sophisticated diplomatic message. Spacecraft positioning systems showed remarkable changes. Zorn vessels would subtly shift their configurations in response to specific culinary creations. Military observation rooms, once filled with tension, now buzzed with scientific excitement. Sophisticated weapon systems remained powered down, replaced by an overwhelming sense of curiosity and wonder. Humanity had discovered a language more powerful than any traditional form of communication. Sue's team developed intricate culinary communication protocols. The fermentation time of a particular dish could represent diplomatic waiting periods. Spice levels could indicate emotional intensity. Molecular complexity could communicate intricate political nuances. Holographic displays tracked the incredible transformation. What was once a rigid, mathematically precise alien species now demonstrated something close to emotional intelligence. The Zorn's crystalline bodies would pulse with excitement, creating light shows that researchers interpreted as a form of culinary appreciation. Specialized spacecraft began arriving from different galactic regions. Alien species from distant star systems became increasingly interested in this new form of communication. The human culinary approach was unlike anything they had encountered in thousands of years of interstellar exploration. As the station rotated, offering breathtaking views of Earth and the surrounding alien fleet, Sue understood the magnitude of their achievement. They were no longer just preparing food. They were writing a new chapter in cosmic understanding. The communication breakthrough went beyond simple diplomacy. Each dish became a complex algorithm, each ingredient a potential key to understanding. The fundamental nature of intelligent communication. The line between cooking and advanced linguistics had completely disappeared. Zorn communication modules showed unprecedented adaptability. Their previously rigid systems now demonstrated a level of curiosity that seemed almost childlike. They would carefully analyze each molecular combination, their crystalline structures shifting with what could only be described as excitement. Global news networks broadcast the culinary experiments live. Millions watched as chefs became the new frontline of interstellar diplomacy. What had started as a simple diplomatic encounter had transformed into humanity's most remarkable achievement. As artificial gravity maintained the delicate environment, Sue looked out over the complex research facility. The space station pulsed with potential, a testament to humanity's creativity, adaptability, and unexpected capacity for communication. One bite at a time, they were changing the universe. Thanks for listening. The United Galactic Council Chamber erupted with an energy unlike any diplomatic gathering in recorded history. Jay Park stood at the center, her simple presence a testament to humanity's unexpected journey from potential conflict to cosmic understanding. Massive holographic displays surrounded the circular chamber, showing real-time connections with dozens of alien civilizations. The Zorn delegation occupied a central position, their crystalline bodies now pulsing with a vibrancy that suggested something close to excitement, something entirely new for their species. Commander Kral, once a rigid representative of mathematical precision, now moved with a fluidity that spoke of fundamental transformation. His crystalline structure reflected complex light patterns that researchers had come to understand as emotional responses, a concept previously impossible for the Zorn civilization. Humanity has demonstrated a capability beyond technological Advancement, the Universal Translator announced, capturing the collective voice of the alien delegations. You have discovered communication through experience, not just information. The chamber itself seemed to breathe with potential. Delegates from 100 different star systems watched as the story of humanity's culinary diplomacy unfolded. What had begun with a simple jar of kimchi had transformed into a revolutionary approach to interstellar understanding. Specialized communication modules tracked the molecular history of human culinary interactions. Each dish, each recipe, became a living document of cultural exchange. The fermentation techniques, the spice combinations, the careful preparation, all of it now recognized as a sophisticated language more complex than any verbal communication. Spacecraft positioning systems outside the chamber showed a remarkable choreography. Alien vessels from different star systems had aligned themselves in patterns that mimicked the molecular structures of various human dishes. It was as if the entire galaxy was speaking a language born in human kitchens. Jay remembered the moment in the initial diplomatic hall, her hand trembling as she offered that first taste of her grandmother's kimchi. Who could have predicted that a family recipe would become humanity's most powerful diplomatic tool? The Zorn delegation's representative moved forward, its crystalline body creating a light show that researchers had come to understand as a form of deep respect. We underestimated the complexity of sensory experience, the translation module announced. Humanity has taught us that intelligence is not just about calculation, but about feeling. Global networks broadcast the event live. Millions watched as humanity transitioned from a potentially threatened species to the universe's most unexpected communication experts. Chefs had become the new diplomats, recipes the new international language. Specialized research teams from Earth stood nearby, their faces a mixture of scientific excitement and cultural pride. They had transformed humanity's approach to interstellar communication, proving that creativity could be more powerful than any technological weapon. The chamber's environmental systems subtly shifted, creating a space that could accommodate the diverse biochemical needs of multiple alien species. It was a physical representation of the diplomatic breakthrough, adaptability, as the highest form of intelligence. Commander Kral's final statement would be recorded in cosmic communication archives. Humanity does not just communicate. Humanity experiences. And in that experience, true understanding is born. J. Park understood the magnitude of the moment. A simple act of sharing, a jar of kimchi, a family recipe passed through generations, had rewritten the fundamental understanding of intelligent communication. The universe had been waiting for this moment, though no one had recognized it until now. Holographic displays showed the molecular connections between different culinary traditions. Each dish became a living document of cultural exchange. Each recipe a complex communication protocol that transcended traditional language barriers. The United Galactic Council chamber transformed from a diplomatic meeting space into a celebration of human potential. Alien delegations that had once viewed humanity with clinical detachment now demonstrated something close to wonder. As the gathering concluded, the massive chamber seemed to pulse with a new kind of energy. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy through military might or technological superiority. They had done something far more profound. They had taught the universe how to truly communicate. Jay looked out over the assembled delegates, understanding that everything had changed. One bite at a time, humanity had transformed the cosmic understanding of intelligence, communication, and connection. The universe would never be the same. Thanks for listening. We're witnessing the first true moment of interspecies communication, she whispered, her voice filled with a mixture of scientific excitement and human wonder. Hyun watched as complex holographic representations showed how the kimchi's molecular structure was essentially teaching the Zorn new ways of perceiving existence. Each fermented vegetable, each carefully crafted spice became a complex communication module. Outside the facility, the sky began to change. Alien spacecraft positioned around Earth's atmosphere started to shift their configurations, responding to the molecular transformations happening in the research center. The military personnel exchanged worried glances. This wasn't an invasion. This was something far more complex, a potential revolution in how intelligent species could communicate and understand each other. As night fell, the research facility continued its work. Hyun Lee stood by the containment chamber, watching the Zorn specimen pulse with newfound energy. What had begun as a simple diplomatic encounter was transforming into something that could change humanity's understanding of consciousness itself. The kimchi continued to work its mysterious magic, bridging gaps between species that had seemed impossible just days before. Thanks for listening. The International Culinary Research Center transformed overnight into humanity's most critical diplomatic weapon. Dae Kim stood at the center of a culinary revolution that would redefine interstellar communication, surrounded by a team of the world's most innovative chefs and xenobiologists. Massive holographic displays tracked the molecular interactions between human cuisine and alien biochemistry. Specialized kitchen stations looked more like advanced scientific laboratories, each cooking surface equipped with quantum sensors, molecular analyzers, and real-time communication interfaces with the Zorn spacecraft. "We're not just cooking," Dae explained to his team. "We're creating a language more complex than any verbal communication ever developed." The first breakthrough came unexpectedly. A simple Korean barbecue marinade triggered unprecedented neural responses in the Zorn communication systems. The complex blend of soy sauce, pear juice, and carefully selected spices created molecular vibrations that resonated with the aliens' sensory networks. Military strategists watched in amazement as what began as a culinary experiment transformed into a sophisticated diplomatic tool. Each dish became a carefully crafted message, each ingredient a potential key to understanding. Specialized research pods surrounded the cooking stations. Alien specimens, now more responsive and adaptive, seemed to literally breathe with excitement as new culinary creations were developed. The Zorn's crystalline bodies would pulse and shift, creating complex light patterns that researchers slowly began to interpret as a form of emotional response. Spacecraft communication systems went into overdrive. The massive Zorn mothership, a structure that looked more like a living organism than a traditional vessel, began repositioning itself in Earth's orbit, responding to the molecular messages being sent through food. Dae's team worked around the clock. They weren't just chefs anymore, they were linguistic architects, creating a communication system more nuanced than any spoken or written language. Korean cuisine proved particularly effective, with its complex fermentation techniques and intricate flavor profiles becoming a primary mode of interspecies dialogue. "Each fermented dish is like a complex algorithm," one xenobiologist explained. "We're essentially writing molecular poetry that the Zorn can understand." The global reaction was unprecedented. What had started as a potential conflict was transforming into humanity's most remarkable diplomatic achievement. News networks broadcast the culinary experiments live, with millions watching as chefs became the new front line of international diplomacy. Specialized spacecraft began arriving from different parts of Earth. Culinary experts from every continent brought their most complex dishes, each one a potential breakthrough in communication. Brazilian chefs brought sophisticated mole sauces, Indian teams arrived with intricate spice blends, and Mediterranean experts contributed their most complex marinades. The research center became a global melting pot, quite literally. Each kitchen station represented a different cultural approach to food, each chef a potential linguistic expert in this new form of communication. Zorn communication modules began showing unprecedented adaptability. What was once a rigid, mathematically precise species now demonstrated something close to curiosity. Their crystalline bodies would shift and pulse, creating light shows that researchers slowly began to interpret as a form of excitement. Military observation rooms, initially filled with tension and weapons systems, now buzzed with a sense of wonder. This wasn't just diplomacy. This was a fundamental reimagining of how intelligent species could understand each other. Dae Kim's team developed specialized culinary communication protocols. Each dish became a carefully crafted message. The fermentation time of kimchi could represent diplomatic waiting periods. The spice level could indicate emotional intensity. The molecular complexity could communicate intricate political nuances. Spacecraft. Positioning systems began showing remarkable changes. Zorn vessels started moving into configurations that matched the molecular patterns of the dishes being created. It was as if the food was literally speaking a language more complex than any. Verbal communication. As night fell, the research center continued its work. Holographic displays showed complex interactions between human cuisine and alien biology. A dance of molecular communication that was rewriting the understanding of consciousness itself. Day looked out over the research facility, understanding that they were no longer just preparing food. They were writing a new chapter in humanity's cosmic story, one delicious molecule at a time. Thanks for listening. The International Space Station gleamed like a beacon of hope, transformed into humanity's most advanced culinary diplomatic center. So-Yoon stood at the heart of a revolutionary program that would redefine interstellar communication, her eyes reflecting the complex holographic displays surrounding her. Massive observation decks stretched out across the station, offering panoramic views of Earth and the growing fleet of Zorn spacecraft. What had begun as a potential conflict had evolved into the most extraordinary cultural exchange in human history. Specialized culinary laboratories occupied entire sections of the space station. Each cooking station was more advanced scientific interface than kitchen, equipped with quantum molecular manipulators, gravitational flavor stabilizers, and real-time alien biochemistry analyzers. Chefs had become the new diplomats, their recipes more powerful than any traditional negotiation strategy. The breakthrough came through an unexpected fusion of techniques: Korean molecular gastronomy combined with advanced alien communication. Protocols created a new language of taste. Dishes could now communicate complex emotional and political concepts. A single bite could represent years of diplomatic negotiations. Zorn communication vessels, crystalline structures that pulsed with living energy, began synchronizing with the culinary research modules. Their intricate light patterns now responded to specific flavor combinations, creating a visual symphony that scientists were slowly learning to interpret. "We're not just cooking," Sue explained to her international team. "We're creating a universal communication system more complex than any spoken language in galactic history." The massive conference hall hummed with an electric anticipation that made Jay Park's skin tingle. Massive holographic displays flickered around her, showing intricate star maps and complex alien communication algorithms. She adjusted her simple black blazer, feeling both terrified and excited about the most important moment of her diplomatic career. The Zorn spacecraft had arrived 3 days ago, a crystalline structure that looked more like a living organism than a traditional spacecraft. Its surface shifted and pulsed with an iridescent energy that defied human understanding of engineering. When the alien delegation first emerged, they weren't humanoid as movies had always suggested. Instead, they were elegant crystalline beings that moved like liquid mercury, their bodies constantly changing shape and reflecting light in mesmerizing patterns. Commander Kral, the lead representative, stood nearly 3 meters tall. His body resembled a complex geometric structure made of interconnected metallic segments that seemed to breathe and pulse with an internal rhythm. Translators mounted on the conference hall's walls worked overtime to convert the complex vibrational language of the Zorn into something comprehensible. Jay's grandmother's recipe book sat hidden in her small messenger bag, a detail she hadn't shared with her diplomatic supervisors. She knew protocol demanded standard nutrient bars and scientifically prepared interaction packages, but something in her heart told her this moment required something more personal. The spacecraft's landing had caused global excitement. Millions watched live broadcasts, hoping for some miraculous communication. Scientists, politicians, and military personnel had prepared exhaustive protocols for first contact. Yet here stood Jay, a junior diplomat with nothing more than family recipes and an unexpected intuition. "Diplomatic Representative Jay Park," Commander Kral's voice resonated through the hall, sounding like multiple harmonics singing simultaneously. Your species has been evaluated for potential interstellar communication protocols. Jay's hand instinctively reached into her bag, pulling out a small ceramic container. Inside was her grandmother's carefully preserved kimchi, a recipe passed through generations, containing a perfect balance of fermented vegetables, complex spices, and a secret blend of ingredients. The entire hall went silent. Security personnel tensed, their hands hovering near sophisticated weapon systems. International observers leaned forward, watching every microscopic movement. Commander Kral's crystalline body shifted, multiple sensory appendages extending towards Jay. The universal translator struggled to interpret the complex vibrational language happening between the aliens' internal systems. "We detect an unexpected molecular composition," the translator announced. "Request further analysis." Without hesitation, Jay opened the container. The rich, pungent aroma of fermented cabbage, garlic, and red pepper filled the conference hall. Alien sensors immediately began analyzing the complex molecular structure, their intricate scanning systems working over time. What happened next would be recorded in human history as the most unexpected first contact moment. Commander Kral's entire crystalline structure began to pulse with unprecedented energy. Vibrations that seemed like a combination of shock, excitement, and something close to what humans might call emotional response rippled through his body. The kimchi wasn't just food. It was a complex biological communication device that triggered responses far beyond simple nutrition. Generations of fermentation, cultural knowledge, and familial tradition were compressed into those few spoonfuls of vegetables. Spacecraft monitoring systems went crazy. Alien communication networks lit up. With unprecedented data streams, something fundamental was happening. A connection that transcended traditional understanding of interspecies communication. Jay stood completely still, holding the container, watching in a mixture of terror and fascination as the most important diplomatic encounter in human history unfolded around a simple jar of kimchi. The conference hall transformed from a sterile diplomatic environment into a living, breathing ecosystem of potential. Alien sensors, human technologies, and unexpected culinary magic combined in a moment that would redefine humanity's place in the universe. Commander Kral's response would be recorded in multiple languages, but the essence remained the same. "We underestimated your species' complexity, and it all started with a jar of kimchi. Thanks for listening." The research facility buzzed with an electric excitement that felt almost tangible. Hyun Lee stood beside massive holographic displays, his hands trembling slightly as he watched the unprecedented biological reactions unfolding before his eyes. The Zorn specimen, previously a rigid, mathematically precise crystalline entity, now pulsed with an energy that defied all known scientific understanding. What had started as a simple sample of kimchi had transformed into a full-scale biological investigation that could rewrite everything humanity knew about extraterrestrial communication. Specialized containment chambers hummed with advanced technology. Quantum sensors, molecular analyzers, and neural network scanners worked overtime, capturing every microscopic change in the alien's biochemical structure. The walls of the research facility were lined with screens showing complex data streams that looked more like abstract art than scientific readings. "This is impossible," muttered Dr. Kang, the lead xenobiologist, her eyes wide with a mixture of terror and excitement. "The molecular interaction is creating neural pathways that shouldn't exist in their biological framework." The Zorn specimen, nicknamed Catalyst by the research team, began to demonstrate behaviors that were completely unprecedented. Its crystalline structure started to vibrate in rhythmic patterns that matched the fermentation frequencies of the kimchi. It was as if the food was speaking a language more complex than any verbal or written communication. Holographic reconstructions showed how the simple act of consuming the fermented dish was creating massive neural explosions within the aliens' sensory systems. What humans considered a simple side dish was essentially a complex biological communication device for the Zorn. Massive screens displayed the transformation. The aliens' typically rigid molecular structure began to shift, creating intricate patterns that resembled complex musical compositions. Each vibration told a story, layers of cultural information compressed into milliseconds of sensory experience. Hyun noticed something extraordinary happening. The Zorn's communication modules, previously locked in rigid mathematical patterns, were now adapting, learning, evolving. The kimchi wasn't just food, it was a key unlocking something profound in their biological system. Military personnel watched from reinforced observation rooms. Sophisticated weapons systems remained powered down, replaced by an overwhelming sense of curiosity. This wasn't a potential threat. This was a breakthrough in understanding. The fermentation process, Hyun explained to his colleagues, creates complex microbial interactions that seem to resonate with their molecular communication systems. It's like we've discovered a universal language through food. Spacecraft monitoring systems outside the facility began picking up unprecedented communication signals. The Zorn mothership, a massive crystalline structure orbiting Earth, started responding to the molecular changes happening in the research facility. Quantum entanglement sensors showed something remarkable. The molecular changes weren't just happening in the single specimen. Similar transformations were being detected across multiple Zorn communication networks. A simple jar of kimchi was creating a cascading effect across an entire alien civilization. Doctor. Kang approached the containment chamber, her protective suit humming with advanced sensory equipment. The Zorn specimen now moved with a fluidity that was almost organic, its previously rigid structure now capable of nuanced movements that suggested something close to emotion.